welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. And today we're going to be doing a get ready with me. You can see I have absolutely nothing on my skin right now. And we're going to be using some new luxury makeup items. So one of the things I've been using for several weeks now are the Koh Gen Do Brightening Moisture Powders. I've had the original one for, I don't know, over a year. And the new pink one I have been using and testing. So we're going to compare the two of these powders. And we'll talk a little bit about them. We're going to take a closer look at the new Surratt Brow Pomade compared to the clear one. And we're also going to be taking a look at the new SUQQU Signature Color Eyes Palette in 04. And I have a couple of additional looks to include with this palette as well. So with this, we're going to be using one of the new SUQQU liquid eyeliners. This is the Nuance eyeliner in 03. We're going to use the gray shade today because I'm really loving the grays and the pinks together. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with the Dior Forever Skin Veil Primer. And this is a hydrating or moisturizing primer. You can see that it has a little bit of a tint when it comes out, but you can see that it really doesn't leave color on the skin. So here's the side with the primer versus without. There's really no color difference. You can see my skin gets really red from the touch, but you know, it doesn't impart color onto the skin. Next, I'm taking the Merit Complexion Stick, and I'm going to just use this for concealer today. We're going to go in with actually the new Givenchy foundation today, and we're going to try stippling it on a little bit more and see how that does. So in the Givenchy foundation, this is the Prisma Libre Skin Caring Glow Foundation. I have shade 1N95. So this is one pump. You can see it is a thin consistency. And I have to say this foundation it feels more like a moisturizer. So it just kind of sinks into the skin. So I actually want to try it with this brush. This is actually the highlighting brush from La Bouche Rouge, and I just wanted to see how this performs with foundation because you can see here with it's technically a stippling brush. So I was just kind of curious how this would perform with it. So we're going to do one side with this brush and we'll do another side with something else. All right, so there it is with the stippling brush versus nothing. And then for the other side, we're going to use a flat top brush. This is the Guerlain L'Essentiel foundation brush. And we'll just kind of pat this one on. Now I have to say that the side with the La Bouche Rouge brush, it feels like I have less product on. It doesn't feel like as heavy. So yeah, I like the feeling of the other side a little bit better. But let's see how they both look. So here's the Guerlain with the La Bouche Rouge. Okay, so I think the Guerlain side has a little bit more coverage. I'm going to add a little bit more here. Just spread that on with the La Bouche Rouge. Okay, so I let that sit for a minute. Let me know which side do you think looks better. The side with the Guerlain foundation brush or the side with the La Bouche Rouge highlighting brush, which is a stippling brush. I have to say, I really liked the way that this brush performed for foundation. So that's definitely a plus there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Koh Gen Do powders. Now, when you get the powder, it does come with plastic on the top here. I left it on so I can easily distinguish which one's my new and my old one. You have a little button to click here, and inside you've got a mirror. There's a brush. You can see I did not use the brush. And the little tray for that to sit on, you flip that open. This is the pink one. So this is brightening pink, and you can see that it's mostly white. And this is made in Japan, and these are 0.32 ounces or 9 grams. Now, Koh Gen Do cosmetics in general, they don't use any artificial colors, synthetic fragrance, mineral oil, or parabens. They also do not test on animals. Now, just a few things about both of these powders in general. This is the original, which is now called Blurring Beige. Originally, it did not have a name. And both of them in general are translucent brightening powders. I took a few notes from the website, so I'm just gonna take a look here. And they transform dull looking skin into something with a brighter, more beautiful, radiant finish. And they have infused the mineral powders with 10 moisture retaining botanical emollients. And there are 5 additional moisture retaining ingredients such as hyaluronate and ceramides for a beautiful long wear. They also have diamond powders in there to give an exquisite radiance so that your skin looks like it's bathed in a soft veil of light. There are light refracting powders that smooth the appearance of the skin's surface, and the difference between the pink one and the beige one is the pink is supposed to brighten and uplift the complexion with a radiant shimmer, whereas the beige offers blurring perfection to conceal lines and pores. So we're going to do one on each side of the face so you can kind of see the difference. Now, to make both sides as similar as possible, I'm going to use the two Beautylish Lunar New Year brushes that I have. So they're close, they're almost identical. And we're gonna start off with the pink on this side, so on my right. And just so you know, these powders can be used as a setting powder. They can be used as touch-ups during the day or as finishing. So definitely many options for this. So I'm just gonna go in with this, okay, and just tap some off. And let's start here. So you can see right away that there is some brightness there. We're gonna just put it here for now so you can kind of see the difference. And then I'll put it on the rest of that side of the face in a minute. Now on the other side, I'm taking the other brush into Blurring Beige, just tapping some off. Okay, and there's the difference between the two powders. You can see that the whiteness kind of goes away, like it looks a little bit more stark when you first put it on, but as it kind of, melts into your skin a little bit, it really, fades. It's got like a brightening effect, but it doesn't look white, at least on me. I'm not sure how this will perform on deeper skin tones. It's supposed to be translucent, but we all know that when something is translucent, it's not always going to be universally translucent. So I'm not sure how it would perform on deeper skin tones. One of the things that I like to do with this brightening powder though is to actually use it kind of as a highlighter. So if I don't really want a highlight, but I want some subtle like shimmer or a little bit of extra radiance, I will take a little extra of the pink powder and just kind of concentrate it in that area. Or, I will put it on before or after the blush and just kind of like buff a little extra into that area for some extra radiance. All right, so while I have the beige one on here, we're just gonna go ahead and finish. So what do you think? Did you notice a blurring effect? How does it look on my pores? All right, and let's try the pink. Right, and you can watch Okay, you can kind of see how white it looks in the beginning, and it's starting to fade. That whiteness is starting to fade, but you still have a brightness to the skin. So I would love to know what your thoughts are on these two powders. Now, let me share with you how I typically like to apply these, because as I mentioned, I've been using these for weeks, been using the beige one for well over a year. And I have to say that, it's not a hydrating powder, meaning like it's not one of those wet ones. It's not going to increase moisture in your skin. But when my skin is feeling very dry and acting up, this is the powder that I reach for. It does seem to kind of seal in all of the moisture that you have already in your skin. So I think it performs really well. Both of these powders are formulated for all skin types. So oily to dry. I do not know how well they would work on other skin types. My skin is normal, and at times it gets dry. So I'm normal to slightly dry. This year, it's been really good. I've been using the Ray skincare at night, and I think that has really helped the condition of my skin over the winter. But last winter, my skin got pretty dry. It was not in as nice of a condition as it has been this year. And the blurring beige powder, which at that time was the only moisture brightening powder, that was one that I relied on. So that and the Chantecaille Éclat Dew powder, those are the two that I reach for when my skin is dry. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. So you can see as it's set, you still have a brightness to this. And I do think there's a little bit of a blurring effect. Now, I do feel like it has made it a little bit more beige in general, but nothing too bad. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Now, for me, when I use these powders, I often like to use these together. So I like to put the brightening powder, the pink one, kind of under the eye and on the cheeks, kind of like where you would want any sort of natural highlight. And then I put the beige more on the rest of my face. So the lower cheek, I put it on the forehead, the nose, and so forth. And that's just kind of how I've been using it. Sometimes though, I'll do like the whole like T or plus sign with the pink. But I've been enjoying combining them. So that's kind of what I like to do. But, I definitely want to know what you guys think. All right, so we're going to leave this as it is and move on to the eyes. Start off with one of the Chanel Ombre Premier Locks. These came out last spring. This is 22 Rayon, and this is a liquid eyeshadow, and I'm going to use this kind of as a base. And I think with these, they dry fairly quickly, so you want to kind of work it out quickly. So this is the Refer 28 brush. I'm just going to kind of put this all over the lid. And I'm just trying to get a little bit of this in the crease. I'm just taking the Refer 27. These brushes I actually didn't wash from yesterday. So, I mean, I wiped them off, but they have a little bit of shadow left. All right, so there's Rayon. I think this, I personally love these liquid shadows for, just like one and dones and so forth as well, or just on their own. Can build these up, as pigmented as they look in that little swatch I just used, but I really like using them as eye bases also. I have to say I was really hoping that they would bring out more shadows in this collection. I was hoping maybe in the spring it would be part of one of the collections, but guess not. All right, so I'm gonna start off with this more like beigey pink shade. It's kind of like a Dune Rose kind of shade with the Sonia Worker Pro. And I'm gonna put this on the mobile lid. And I'm gonna work this just about 60% of the lid here. Just add a little bit more by the lash line here. And you can see that this shadow is sheer enough that you can still see some of the rayon shade peeking through. Some foundation in the brow. Next, taking the same brush into this deeper shade, And I like this shade a lot because it's a little bit cooler in tone than the other shades in this palette. I wouldn't say it's a cool tone per se, but it is cooler in tone. And I think it's a really nice accent shade. So just gonna take the Rephr 27 again and just going into the crease. And I'm happy with it just like this, but I really do like how this topper kind of transforms the shadows. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it. We're gonna add a little bit to the inner corner and just kind of spread that out a little bit. So we're just gonna put it there. All right, and you can see that that adds a little brightening, a little sparkle, but this topper shade in general, it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of mutes some of the pinkness for me. Like this shade here is a pretty warm pink, and I don't love it on me. I definitely think it would be beautiful on other people, but I like it with this on top, but on its own, it's a little bit too warm for me. Now, I don't want a ton of shadow on the lower lash line. I'm just going to go into this beigey shade. This is a Rephr 26 brush. I'm just going to add a touch of the deepest shade on that outer corner here. Just kind of bring that up a little bit. Okay, so I wiped off the brush and just kind of diffusing that underneath. Yeah, see, now that's too red under my eye. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to have to fix that. Just gonna take my cloth and kind of wipe a little bit of that away. It's still gonna be there, but it'll be a little bit lighter. All right, now I'm gonna take the new Dior Mono Shadow in Poncho. This is a warm brown shade, and I actually haven't tried this yet. So we're just gonna put this on the lower lash line instead. It's a little bit better. All right, and next up, I'm going to take the gray eyeliner and put this on. I am not good at doing this on camera. It's hard. It's hard for me in general, but I'm going to start here and see here. Do a little wing. So I try to do it with my eye open so I know what it's going to look like, and then just kind of fill it in. And I always get one eye okay, and then the other eye like not okay, and it takes me like 20 minutes to kind of fix it. And then they still end up looking wonky. Just making sure I'm as close to the lash line as possible. Okay, so there's that. And I'm taking the Rephr 29 brush and just seeing if any of that will stretch a little bit. Still have a little shadow on there. So it actually removed a little bit of this. And that's a good thing to know for correction purposes. All right, so I think that's gonna be it for my wing. Let's try the other side. All right, well, that went smoother than it usually does. So this is gonna be it for today for the eyes. And then let's take a look at the Surratt Brow Pomade. So the Surratt Brow Pomade, I actually have the original here, which is clear. You can see there is a difference in the containers. the original. I don't know if that's true. I mean, this is getting a little older. Maybe they're repackaging all of them, but you can see that this is more of a matte bottom here. The top is a little bit shinier and smoother, but it's definitely more matte textured on the bottom. So this is the original. It was just called Brow Pomade, and it looks white. You've got this little like toothbrush thing, but you can see that it goes on clear. So even, you know, on dark eyebrows, it still ended up drying clear. I have not, you know, I have a friend with black hair and it dries clear on her. So I don't know if anybody else has had any issues with any like whiteness or anything to it, but I have not. And I have to say that this lasts a long time. So this has been my go-to brow product for quite a while. I like to use the Gucci brow pencil to kind of fill in. You can see I've got some sparse areas. And then I put this on top to kind of tame my brows. This has a pretty strong hold from my understanding. My brows kind of, you know, I don't really worry too much about hold with mine. For me, what I'm looking for is something that feels, it doesn't feel stiff or sticky when I have something in it. That's why I like it. Now I have to say though that when I have tried to put them in a particular position, the brow pomade has allowed it to stay there all day. So I have had no issues with that. And I do know some people with ruly eyebrows that have really sworn by this. So I believe the hold is very strong. Now, for me, you know, the clear is a great product. So they released 3 new shades in this, and I have light brown. And let me show you what that one looks like. You know, it's always hard to get a true swatch, but here's the light brown. They have a darker brown, I think, and maybe a black. I don't remember what the other shades are, but these retail for $35, including the clear. They're all $35. Right now, the tinted one is not available at all retailers, but it is available at most of them. You can find it at Beautylish. I think Saks had it or has it. It's been going in and out of stock at some of the retailers. It kind of sold out. I saw it originally at Saks, then it sold out, and I think it's been coming and going. And I picked mine up from Surratt directly. So let's go ahead and try this brow pomade in the light brown so you can kind of see what it does. So there it is. Now, if I were trying to have absolutely perfect brows, because I do have sparse hairs in here, I would still, you know, prefer to fill it in with a pencil. Most of the time, honestly, I just like a real quick brow product, so I don't do that. But I do really like this product. I like it in the clear and I like it in the light brown. So this is something that I would repurchase, especially knowing how much I liked the clear. I usually don't have to touch up there. I just, I don't know. I'm not great at talking while doing things. All right, so this is the brow pomade. Let me just add a little bit more to my right eye. It looks a little bit less. And, you know, the more I layer this on, the darker my brows look. So you can then take like a spoolie and run through it if you want. I don't usually do that, but I'll just show you how that looks just in general. So sometimes if I feel like it, I'll take a spoolie and kind of help guide the brows exactly where I want them to go. It's not necessary, but this is the Surratt brow pencil, by the way. So there's a spoolie on one end. These are refillable. So you just unscrew this. Oh, there we go. No, the screw is actually, it was going the wrong way, I think, for the pencil. So yeah, this just pops out and you can refill it. So love the brow pencil. Been using that one for a long time as well. And there we go. All right, so before we move on to cheeks, take a look at how the powder has kind of settled onto the skin. The brightening pink is over here versus the blurring beige. And again, let me know what you think. And for cheeks today, we're going to go into the SUQQU cheek palette. This is 102. So this is the second one that came out last year. And I'm going to use this brush. This is the Finishing Buki from Stilazzi. I put this in my haul video. This is something that Jaybird Walking had put on her Instagram stories. There was a great deal. It was like $9. It's squirrel hair. And it really is super soft. So, you know, we're going to test this out for blush today. And I think we're going to go into this more mauve toned blush here. And let's see how this goes with the eyes. Got a little bit more powder. So I'm putting on just a light layer because sometimes these blushes can be very pigmented. So I'm trying to not put on too much. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit of powder. I don't even know if I got any. There you go, on the side of the brush. I'm just going to sweep that on softly. All right, there we go. So I have to say, I like sweeping it as a better motion with this brush. Putting it on this way, it's a little bit too small of a head. And I just think you get a smoother finish, kind of sweeping using the side of the brush. All right, so there is the blush. And then for highlight, let's go into the Chanel Eclat du Désert. This came out last year. It's very, very powdery. It's a very powdery, actually, you know, I can kind of use this more as a blush. So you can see how much came off on there. So I just dabbed that onto my cloth, and this gives a very subtle highlight. So we're just gonna add a little bit there. You can see it just kind of accents that blush well and just adds a little bit of a sheen. All right, so just to show you the brow pomade as it dries, this is the clear here. You can't really see, I can't see anything. And then the light brown. And we're gonna use one of the new Chanel Rouge Coco Blooms today. And we're gonna go in with the shade Zenith. Okay, so this is number 122. Now before we put this on, I'm gonna get a lip liner. All right, so we're gonna go in with the Chanel Bois de Rose, number 172. It's a little bit pinker. Here, let me show you. So it's pinker than Zenith, but I'm gonna line my lips with this and apply the Rouge Coco Bloom, and I'll see you from a distance. So this is Bois de Rose on the lips, and here is Zenith going on top. All right, so this is the final look today. And I think overall, everything has tied in together really well. So before we go over thoughts on everything, let me just show you some swatches of this palette. And I do already have comparisons to this, a separate video with all of the new Signature Eye palettes from SUQQU along with comparisons. So please check that out. If there are any additional comparisons you'd like, let me know, but I do have everything compared there. So this first shade here is a topper shade, and you can see that it's kind of like a golden champagne. There's a little bit of gold shimmer to it, but it's really got more of an ivory champagne base. And I mean, it's a topper. There's really not too much of the base that is there. It's mostly transparent. Then we have this next shade here, and this is going to be like a peachy pink beige shade. So there's a little bit of peach and a little bit of a dusty rose kind of mixed into a beige base. And this is going to be a matte shade. Then you can see that these two here are going to be a little bit more satin. This one in particular is a little bit more of a shimmery satin, and it's going to be a warm peachy pink. So it's definitely going to be a warm tone rose. You've got a little bit of orange kind of mixed in there. And then the last shade here is a little bit more of a berry rose. There are some plum notes in here, and it's warm for a berry tone, you know, but it leans cooler than everything else in here. So it's closer to neutral on the spectrum. I'd say that, yeah, there's some coolness to it and some warmth. So I'd say it's pretty neutral overall, but it's going to be a berry rose. So it's kind of like they took like a warmer rose and mixed some of a cooler tone berry into it, if that makes sense. So you can see here that this is a satin finish, and so is this, but the lighter one, you can see a little bit more light reflection with the lighter shade than you can with the deeper shade. So I hope these swatches were helpful. And now before we move on to my thoughts on all these products, let me share with you the additional eye looks that I created using this quad. All right, we are going to start off with this shade here using the SUQQU Crease Pro. Next, this is the Surratt Moyenne or medium classic eye brush. I'm going into this deepest shade. You can see that this shade is definitely very rich, very pretty. Just kind of curious how well this will like kind of blend out. So I wiped off my brush, so I'm not adding any additional pigment. And I'm just swiping towards the inner part of my eye to soften this. So you can see how it really shears out. All right, so you can see that I was able to move some of that shadow all the way there. I could continue blending and get a smoother gradient, but I'm actually gonna go ahead and I wanna top everything with this sparkly shade. So I'm gonna start with the brush, using the same brush, and I'm gonna start off heavier on the inner portion, and I'm going to kind of feather it over this darker part. So the transition doesn't matter because I'm having like a heavier layer here in the center, and then just a lighter bit over here. Now I'm taking the medium smoky eye brush from Surratt and just softly blending these. All right, so this is the look here. Now, these shades are all a little too pink for me to really use as liner. It's just not a shade that I like around my eyes. They end up looking a little red and tired. So I'm gonna pick a pencil. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna take the Chanel Stilo Ombre Contour. This is from the Pearl de Clot collection. This is number 40, the Beige Perlé. I'm gonna put this on the upper lash line and kind of leave it as it is, kind of just like a thicker smudgy line. And I'm going to add a little bit to the lower lash line on the outer part and then smudge it. So I'm taking the Smudger 2 from Sonia G, and I'm just going to move that product before it dries. I'm just taking that Smudger 2 and just lightly softening that line. It's not really going to move much because it is pretty much already set. Just kind of brushing some of the shadow over it. So this is it for the eyes. Finish my makeup and I'll see you in a second. And this is the final look from a distance. So I finished up with the SUQQU single blush in 04, and I used the Pat McGrath Champagne Gold highlighter from the holiday collection. On my lips, I have on the SUQQU Lip Fog in number 105, and I topped that with the Chanel Rouge Coco Gloss in 722, the Surratt Brow Pomade in light brown on, and the Sisley So Stretch Mascara in brown. And that is everything. For eyes, I'm starting off with the SUQQU F04 into this shade here. And I have the Vizier eye primer on. So I'm putting the narrow side into the crease, and then I'm turning it so it can buff up a little bit as well. I'm just taking whatever is left on the brush and just kind of going over the lid. And then I'm going to keep things simple today, so I'm going into this pink, and I'm going to use the flat part of the brush here. Just going to kind of brush this over the lid softly. And you can see that there are these like peachy tones in the pink. It's very warm toned. Next, I'm taking a SUQQU F07 into the deepest shade here, and I'm just getting some on the tip. You can see this looks, you know, kind of like a crease brush shape, but it is dense, a little stiff. It's really more for like working along the lash line and so forth. So we're going to add this in a thick line along the lash line. Now I'm going back to this F05, and I'm just going to kind of brush over the whole lid. No additional shadow or anything, but I'm just kind of softening and blending those two shades together a little bit. All right, so this is it. This is more of like a satin matte type of finish for everything. And if you want to tone it down, you can definitely go in with the Sparkle Topper shade. I'm going to add this to the inner corner. So I'm taking the F07 into that sparkly shade there. Just going to add this here. And then for under the eyes, I'm going to add a little bit of this shade with the F07. All right, so personally for me, this eye combination, it doesn't work. It's too much of that warm tone pink, and it just, you know, it doesn't look good on my particular complexion. So I am going to see if we can tone it down using F05 into the glitter shade. You can see how nicely this applies with a brush like this. And it does kind of cool it off a little bit. I mean, it definitely helps. I'm going to add a little bit more. All right, so I wiped off the brush just a little bit, not completely, and I'm just wiping whatever's left under the brow. All right, so that's going to be it for that. I'm going to add some mascara, finish my makeup. I'll see you in a few minutes. So this is the final look today. I added the Sisley So Stretch Mascara in brown. On my lips, I have one of the new Rouge Coco Blooms in 132 Vivacity. And on my cheeks, I have one of the new Chanel blushes in number 602 Rose Ruben. And I diluted it down actually with the Koh Gen Do Brightening Moisture Powder in the pink shade. And that kind of acted a little bit as a highlight as well. So that's basically it for foundation. I'm using the Givenchy Prisma Libre Skincare and Glow Foundation. I have shade 1 N95. And that's everything then. All right, so let's work backwards and talk about everything that I applied today. So the Rouge Coco Bloom, I already have a review on these out. I do really enjoy them. I think if you want the color to last, it's the pigment that lasts, it's not the finish that lasts. The finish only lasts, like this high shine finish, lasts for maybe about 2 hours for me, and then that kind of goes away and it's like a matte lipstick. And if you want that pigment to last strongly and evenly all day, it will, provided that you allow it to set on your lips first. It's kind of like the pigment has to soak into your lips. So if I were to go and drink from my water bottle right now, when the finish wears off, I will end up having like a mark where I came in contact with the water bottle. So, you know, I like to wait about an hour. I think 30 minutes is probably sufficient for most shades, but it does seem to kind of vary a little bit on the shade. If I don't do anything with my lips aside from talking for like the first hour or so, then when the high shine finish wears off and all you're left with is that matte pigment, it's very even on my lips and it does last all day. So for me, it's the pigment that's long wearing. Aside from that, I have to say that they have a very comfortable finish. If you like the Rouge Coco Flash finish, then this is what it feels like texturally on the lips. It's very similar to the Rouge Coco Flash. It's slightly thicker than the Rouge Coco Flash, and these shades are all opaque with one swipe. So they're very pigmented shades, and for the most part, they run pretty warm. Like pretty much all of their colors run a little bit warm. They all have some like peach into it. So just something to note there. That's not to say they don't have any cool tone shades. They do have some cooler tones in this collection, but they're all like bright pinks, so, or bright reds. So the lighter shades, they all run very warm. The Chanel lip liners, I've been using them since they first debuted, what was that, a year ago or so. I really enjoy them. I think they have a great formula. They're a good price for a luxury lip liner. They come with a sharpener. They come with a brush on the end. Here, let me just show you. So you've got this end here with the pencil. This end has a little lip brush. I just think these are a great pencil. So I do really like the lip liners that I have from them. Moving on, Surratt Noir Lash Tint. I love it. Still love it. One of my favorite, well, it is my favorite lash product. Then the Surratt Brow Tint or Brow Pomade. I am really enjoying them. I love how, you know, like I can feel that there is product on here. And I do feel like the tinted one might feel like I feel a little bit more on it than I do with the clear, but it's still not sticky or, you know, stiff. And that's the part that really bugs me about a lot of brow products. It's just that, you know, it feels like it's something you don't want to ever touch. And not that I go around touching my brows much, but you know, when you have facial expressions and so forth, you can feel it when your brow is stiff versus when you don't. So I really enjoy the new brow pomade. I love the light brown and I love the original clear. So I don't really think you can go wrong with either of them, provided there is a color you like. But I do really enjoy using the Gucci pencil with the clear one. So I think that's a great combination. Gray eyeliner from SUQQU. I love it. You know, usually I go for the other style of liquid liners, you know, something more like the Surratt ones where you've got the like a brush instead of a felt tip. And this is a felt tip liner, but it just works so well. And you know, it's just a little bit easier for me to use this particular one. It has a really nice fine point. Let me show you again. So you've got a pretty fine point here. The liquid comes out easily, but no gloppiness. I've never had issues with getting too much out or too little. It goes on evenly. It stays pigmented. I can still kind of move it around when I first apply it. So if I make a mistake, I can just wipe it away. So I just think it's a really great eyeliner. I'm definitely interested in picking up more of these. This shade here is permanent. I do have the limited edition orange shade. I just haven't tried that yet. I thought it would be too much with the pinks personally. And then this eyeshadow quad. I like this eyeshadow quad. I have enjoyed all of the new SUQQU eyeshadow quads. And I think that the color combinations, once I have the rest of my makeup on, they look good. But before I have my makeup on, I always feel like it looks too warm and I don't really love it. So for me, this particular color combination is not my favorite. The actual shadows themselves are a fantastic formula. And one of the great things about this new SUQQU formula is that they are buildable. You can get very light wash, but you can keep building that up to get deeper colors. So I think that's something that's really useful. I do have to note though that the signature color eyes, I like to use a primer with it because I don't have particularly oily lids or anything, but the designing color eyes, which were the previous formula for the SUQQU eyeshadow quads, they lasted on my eyes a little bit better. These, if I don't use a primer, I will have creasing by the end of the day. It's not major, but it's enough. So I'm sure people with oily lids would have issues with that. So you kind of need a primer with this particular formula, in my opinion. It's so soft and finely milled that it just feels really nice going onto your eyes. So I really love all of these. And In this particular palette, as I mentioned, I think this topper is really great touch. It kind of helps kind of reduce a little bit of the pinkiness of this shade, but this berry shade I think is really gorgeous. So I really like that, and I think this quad in particular is going to pair very nicely with some of the others I haven't gotten to yet, to kind of like some of the browns. I think that'll just be a really nice combination there. As for the SUQQU Cheek palette, I love the SUQQU Cheek palettes, and I think this is a great shade of blush for my complexion. I think it pairs very nicely with the eyeshadow quad. This particular brush that I used, the Stilazzi brush, is super soft. I think for $9, huge bargain. I don't know if they're still available. It's from Friends Beauty Supply, which is, I guess is a store in California. It seems kind of like Ulta. It's spelled Friends without the I, so F-R-E-N-D-S. But yeah, they had these marked down to about, I think it was like $8.75. And then it was $5 shipping, but that's still worth it for a squirrel hair brush. So I missed, they had other brushes on sale as well. I missed those, so I only got these. But yeah, I think it applies blush very beautifully in this sweeping motion. I mean, it works like this, but you can see this dome shape here. The part that your cheek is coming in contact with is just such a small area that personally, it just feels a little, not sharp, I mean, because it's obviously so soft, but a little bit more like pinpointed. So I just feel like it makes for a patchier application that way than if you're sweeping with the side of the brush. So if you like brushes that have a sweeping motion like this is a fantastic brush, and definitely check it out to see if it's still available. If it is, I will link it down below in the description box. The Eclat du Désert highlighter from Chanel, I like that one. I don't reach for it that much for some reason, but I do really like that one for a very subtle highlight, and I love mixing it with like rosy shades on the cheeks so that it gives just a subtle accent. But I think it's a really nice product. I definitely want to reach for that more. As for the Givenchy foundation, I think, I think it looks very nice. I like it. I like the way that it applied. I'd love to know which side you guys preferred, but I think I preferred the side that I stippled it with. It felt a little bit lighter on my skin. Now they both feel pretty much the same, but I've kind of gotten used to it. But it still provided, plenty of coverage that way. So I really like this. I will let you guys know in the description box if there were any changes with wear time or anything with this. I do already have a review out with the Givenchy foundation. At this point, I've used it, I don't know, about 2 weeks or so. So I used it mostly this week as well. So I do think it's a nice foundation. I think I have a decent color match with it. Now, as for the Merit Complexion Stick, I like it when I'm not testing foundations. This is one I've been using because I wanted to test to see how long this would last. I still haven't had to turn it up, and I've used this quite a bit. So I will be including this in an update video very soon. I've been kind of tracking how many times I've used it and in what ways and so forth, so we can kind of get an idea of how quickly this stick wears down. And then for the Koh Gen Do powders, I really like both of the Koh Gen Do powders. For me in particular, I like doing the combination that I described of using the blurring beige and the pink powder. So I think the pink really adds like a brightness, a highlighting effect, but I prefer it more on the cheek area than I do on the rest of my face. So I really like mixing them together. I don't know how the pink is going to work on deeper skin tones. It might be too bright. I'm not sure if it's going to end up with like a white cast or not, but it definitely has kind of like this whitish veil. So I don't know if my guess is it's not going to be great for darker skin tones, but I think for lighter skin tones like mine, it does really have a nice brightening effect. The beige blurring powder, you can't go wrong with it. I mean, it's a great powder. It's good for dry skin, and I do think it has a blurring effect. So my opinion on those is I really like both of them. So, and I think that was everything. Oh, the Dior primer, the Forever Skin Veil primer. I am enjoying this primer. So When my skin is feeling a little bit dry, or I know that I'm going to be outside a lot, and well, here it's still kind of cold most days, so then I want the extra moisture. So I definitely use this primer then. It's one I've been reaching for a lot. This and the Surratt Perfectionist primer are the two that I am really enjoying. The Victoria Beckham primer I have also been using, but I'll include this in an update video. It's just, in my opinion, the other two are better. So I think that sums up everything. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on these products, if you've picked up any of these or if you're planning on it. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you very soon. Have a great day and stay safe and healthy.